They say street by street, town by town, Mexico is taking back the southwestern part of the United States.
Jared, you think immigrants are taking over this country? Explain yourself.
Well, listen to Charles Trujillo. He's a visiting professor of Chicano studies at the University of New Mexico. He says that the creation of a Hispanic nation in the southwestern part of the United States within the next 80 years is an inevitability, in his words. He says, I'm quoting him, "We will one day be a majority and reclaim our birthright."
Well, no, not. First of all, the only thing separating us is an imaginary line.
Imaginary? That's what borders are for.
Yes,
borders
that's
are real.
true. But he's also, I think, dealing with the reality of the fact that the majority of the people on this face of the globe are people of color.
Well, all the more reason for whites to have an area where they are a majority, for heaven's sake. Look, Koreans are a minority on the face of the globe. Does that mean they have to be a minority in Korea?
And you believe that the whole issue with terrorism, we're now on high alert, those are related, don't you? You think immigration and terrorist alert?
Oh, well, the fact that, you see, until 1965, we had an immigration policy that was designed to keep the country majority white. It was quite specific in that respect. Since that time, we've let in millions of people from all around the world, which means that if terrorists happen to be Muslim, if they happen to be Arab, Middle Eastern, there are huge communities in which they can disappear.
Yes.
We would never have had that problem before 1965. Any person, any young Muslim with a beard, was shifty-eyed, didn't speak English, stick out like a sore thumb.
Shifty-eyed?
Well, look at those pictures of Muhammad Atta. He looked like a cool cucumber to you?
Well, I've seen some Irish people in a bar that looked kind of shifty-eyed. I don't think that's exclusive to one particular ethnic identity.
I think
who would you let in, Mr. Taylor? Who can come in?
At this point, there are 280 million Americans. When's the last time you were driving down the road and you said to yourself, gosh, there are just not enough cars on the highway? When's the last time you were standing in line? We got too many people already. And we don't need any more people.
People of color cause that problem?
No, just all sorts of people swarming in from all over the place. But you see, we import nearly 1 million people every year, 90% of whom are non-white.
You know this was not a white nation.
What do you mean, not a white nation?
It certainly didn't originate as a white part of the world. And now you know exactly what I mean. I don't know why you would want to tap dance around that.
What? The very first naturalization law in the United States, written in 1790, the country was not even 20 years old. It reserved naturalization to free white people. It was quite specific and explicit about that. In fact, practically every prominent American, up until about the 1950s, had racial views almost indistinguishable from mine, practically without exception.
You are the genteel racist, as some have suggested. Here you are in your shirt and tie. Yale.
You too,
shirt and tie. Yes. Well, I'm trying to work my way up here. It's not easy. I have, But let me just tell you, you're a Yale graduate, 1973, is that right?
You've done your work.
And where's this fear come from, Jared? What are you afraid of? We are all God's children. You cannot balkanize the world and say, you're this color and you can't come in. You're this color and you can't come in. Incidentally, your argument of keeping out the Arabs, as you refer broadly to people of Middle Eastern origin, is that we wouldn't be able to find them because we have too many Arabs now. In other words, they'd blend in.
Exactly.
You know, that's almost funny if it weren't so ridiculous.
It's so obviously
In other words, if we had an all-white nation, boy, we could grab those people of color right away, couldn't we? You know, my grandmother hit them over the head with her umbrella.
Isn't that, look, how easy would it be for Muhammad Atta and his 19 pals to blend into Japan?
If we wouldn't have let all those other people in.
Let me finish. In Japan, how easily could they have blended in? Very hard. How well would they have blended in Korea? How about Iceland? So they'd had a very tough time. Now, this business about balkanization, the world balkanizes itself. We don't have to make that happen. The folly is in inviting people utterly unlike the native population into a nation and then trying to get them to live in peace. That is complete craziness. It has never worked.
The native population in this country.
We are now the native population.
Well, but we were, you know, imagine if they adopted you'd never have arrived. If Native Americans had the power that you want to exercise in keeping people out, this would be a monoracial nation. It would be a red nation.
And if diversity was such a wonderful thing, why isn't it Christmas year-round for the Indians?
And first of all,
I mean, tell me, if diversity is a great thing, the Indians should be happy as clams. Yes.
Indians, first of all, the Indians had enough trouble with the so-called Christians coming over here and in the name of God being massacred. So let's have a little reflection here on the part of the Christian community who claim to come here with the noble purpose of domesticating the savages. We've used all kinds of excuses to get away from people who are different from us, and we have failed to celebrate the fabulous nature of, for example, New York City. You know, were you scared coming in from the airport? You see all those brown people?
If I'd taken a wrong turn, Mr. Donahue, if I'd taken a wrong turn and headed north, I would have gone through parts of New York City that looked like Afghanistan. They look like Afghanistan. They didn't look that way.
That is not about pigmentation.
Look, do white people live in those places?
That is about maldistribution of wealth.
Hi.
It's about not being able to afford a school system that might give your kid a chance. It's about going against redlining and banks. Residential areas are segregated by institutions, and we're all fighting them, and you should be too.
Why is it that black populations in every multiracial society end up exactly as they do in the United States?
First of all,
they end up looking like Afghanistan wherever you find them, be it in Canada, be it the UK.
Yeah, I'd like to see the kind of house and neighborhood you live in if you couldn't go to Yale. If you hadn't had the opportunity of going to what was probably a very well-funded public school system when you were small. I'm here to say that I think the majority of Americans feel that they are blessed by the diversity of this country. They enjoy the music of many cultures.
Blessed by the
incidentally, what kind of music? Your name is Taylor.
Correct.
That is what? Is that...
it's an English name.
English.
Yeah.
Cannibals, poor black people, and lesbians? You're going to stand by that statement?
You're telling me Americans feel blessed by diversity?
Yes, they do.
Why is it that they escape from it at every opportunity? Why is it that every church service practically in this country is segregated? Why is it that when people are free to invite their own selection of guests to their backyard barbecue or their dinner party, it's almost always homogeneous and not diverse? It's because diversity is not a source of strength. It's a source of hostility. People don't want it in their own lives if they can help it.
No, first of all, I think you're overlooking a lot of the wonderful, wonderful cultures that exist.
Does anyone actually believe that?
It doesn't take a very high IQ person to set up a taco shop.
Without a monoracial feature to the whole neighborhood. But you do make a point. You do make a point, Mr. Taylor, and all of us have to look in the mirror and say, what have I done to contribute to the separation? But you're drawing in awfully broad strokes here. There are all kinds of examples of the benefits of an interracial society.
Name one.
Food, culture, music, all contributions of people and Nobel laureates who have been from Hispanic neighborhoods. All kinds of scientific discoveries by people of Asian, African American, and, as you would say, Central European culture.
How many Hispanic Nobel laureates are there? Name one for me. Come on.
There are, as a matter of fact, there are more Hispanic Nobel laureates than any other single ethnic group.
In the United States?
You want to challenge me on that? You want to challenge me on that?
In the United States?
Than any other single ethnic group.
Let's get the statistics, bud. You know, the last time you told an incredible whopper. You said that there were more Hispanic Medal of Honor winners than any other ethnic group. I looked into this just out of curiosity.
Right.
In the Second World War, there were 12 Hispanic Medal of Honor winners. There were no fewer than 50 with Irish names, my friend. Irish names. That's not even counting German Americans, English Americans. You were completely wrong on that. You're completely wrong on this now.
Josh from Tennessee, I'm glad you waited. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Mr. Taylor, you need to give it up. You're not near as entertaining as Archie Bunker was.
I don't mean to entertain. I mean to instruct and enlighten.
You really believe that you can stop a citizen, an individual child of God. You can stop solely for the, tell him where he has to live and in what country he has to reside, totally on the basis of the color of his skin. You believe that, don't you?
I believe in freedom of association. We should be able to establish our neighborhoods. We should be able to establish our country in a way that we see fit. And the fact that whites prefer the societies built by whites with the culture of whites is perfectly normal, natural, and healthy, and that right should not be denied.
Jason in Michigan writes, take a look at the Shuttle Columbia crew last week. What a picture of America. A great blend of what it takes, what it takes to make the world a better place. Should black folks get on that shuttle, be able to ride the shuttle? Tell me your feelings about that.
I'm not talking about individuals. You can have all sorts of individual exceptions. I'm talking about group dynamics.
Exception.
Yes. When you have group dynamics, you invariably have group and ethnic tension. You can have individuals who get along fine. But when you get groups together, there's invariably friction, and that cannot be avoided.
Mr. Taylor, how would you view the ideal American society? Similar to the Third Reich in Germany?
My views of American society have nothing whatsoever to do with European history. My intellectual antecedents are specifically American. Thomas Jefferson, Woodrow Wilson, Teddy Roosevelt. All of those people took for granted that this was a European society. The idea that diversity was some sort of strength was completely alien to their idea. And as I say, until 1965, we had an immigration policy designed to keep the country majority white.
Yes.
No, it has nothing to do with European history at all.
Ben Franklin was concerned about the Germans coming into Pennsylvania. He said we'd all be Germanized. Holy cow, the Germans are coming. You know, you're not the first person to throw up these red flags, to be frightened of other people. You follow a long line of folk, and you do mention some rather famous people in our past who...
Abraham Lincoln, likewise. Yes, he did free the slaves, but he wanted to export every black from the United States. He wanted a completely white society.
Lisa from Florida. Mr. Taylor's on the line. You wanted to say.
Yes, living in South Florida, our school systems are horrifically overcrowded. They're overcrowded because of illegal people from South America and Haiti. They come here on a daily basis. We have 40 and 50 legal American children in a classroom that cannot be properly educated, and we do not need people who will not learn the language. They speak to each other in their own language. They don't want to fit in, and our children sit and are held back while we try to teach these children.
I don't know whether it's fair to blame the immigrants for whatever may be the situation in your school system. Do you acknowledge that you're gone? Robert Quezada was a Cuban and was chairman of the board of Coca-Cola. We have all kinds of contributions. I could go on and on.
The point is not to blame the immigrants. It's to blame the people who run this country for permitting this to happen. You know, I am always amazed at the generosity of liberals. Let me make a point here, Mr. Donahue.
I'm listening.
Liberals are convinced that it is wonderfully